Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Our today's target is to solve question number 2. This is related to ledgers. We will be converting these transactions which are given in our question into three parts. As in question number 1, what we have done, we made journal at very first step, and then we had converted these journal entries into ledgers, different ledgers we made, and then finally with the help of these ledgers we made trial balance. In the similar way, we are doing the same thing today. These journal entries, as you can see over here, these are journal entries, and we are going to pick, I'm sorry, these are transactions given in the question. We will pick these transactions, we'll convert into journal over here. This would be our first step. And then with the help of this journal, we will make ledgers, different ledgers. And then finally, we will be making trial balance. And surprisingly, you can see over here, our answer for trial balance is also given. It's a good thing. All right, let's start it. So here is our question where we are asked to generalize first, and then we are being said to make ledgers and prepare trial balance. As we have already understood our today's target, journal ledger and trial balance, it is being started from January 1. The first step is to put date first. So here you may write January 1. And now let's see what entry is saying. Mr. Nadeem commenced business with 80,000 cash. Furniture is 10,000. Motor car is 24,000 and stock is 40,000. So it means business is being started by the owner of the business with four different elements. Here I would like to explain that whenever owner is starting business, he is providing particular element to the business. So for initially you will have to decide whether you are working for business or you are working for businessman. Kindly understand that we are working for business, not for the businessman. We are not personal employees of business. Whenever you are making account, you will be making account for business, not businessman. So according to businessman, amount is going out. He is paying cash into the business. Now you can see commenced business with 80,000 of cash. This cash is invested by proprietor of the business, and that amount is given by him. It means cash is going out. So if we are taking reference of proprietor of the business, what will happen? If you are taking reference of proprietor of the business, cash is going out. But when you will see that when you will focus on the business, you will come to know that cash is not going out, cash is coming into the business. It means cash in hand is increasing. Cash in hand is your asset. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be debited. So you are going to debit cash over here. The first line is to be considered as cash, and second line is considered as credit. And we have also an understanding already that all assets and expenses would be written on debit side, all incomes and liabilities would be written on credit side. It was an asset and there was an increase in asset. That is why we have put cash on debit side. Now focus again. If any amount which is provided by the proprietor, technically it is called capital, and that capital is responsibility of the business. Business is answerable for that amount which is provided by the proprietor. So it means it is liability. Amount provided by the proprietor is capital. Capital is liability. Liability should be mentioned on credit side. So you are supposed to write capital on credit side. All right. So this way you have completed your entry. Now you are needed to align it on right side. So whenever you are writing anything on credit, you will post it like this on right side. This would be aligned on the right side. Now it's time to put the amount. What was the amount which is provided by the proprietor? Here you can see it is 80,000. So you are going to put 80,000 on debit side, and same amount you are going to put on credit side as well. This way your first journal entry has been completed. After completion, what you will do? mark it as it has been done by putting an ending line after it. So here we have the bottom line. You will put a line after it, which will show that entry has been completed. This was January 1, but look at that, there are several parts of January 1. We have received furniture also from the proprietor. So here what you can do, you can write January 1 but A now. It is part of 1st January's entry, and we are receiving furniture as well. Here you can see we are receiving furniture from proprietor. So again you will have to think what is coming in. Furniture is coming into the business. It means furniture as an asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be debited. Furniture as an asset is increasing, and as we have decided, furniture due to increase in asset should be debited. So we will debit furniture over here. And secondly, anything, either it's a cash or any commodity, any goods, merchandises, or whatever is provided by the proprietor is to be considered as liability, and proprietor can ask question about his investment. And secondly, business is answerable, business is liable for any product which is provided by the proprietor, so it is to be considered as liability of the business. Liability should be mentioned on credit side, so you are writing capital on this side, credit side, so you will align it on right side. Let's see how much amount of furniture is, that is 10,000. So you are going to put 10,000 on debit side, and same amount you are going to put on credit side as well. This is our rule, debit and credits would always be equal. So now since entry is completed, you are going to put an ending line after it. Here you have completed your second entry. It was for January 1A, but now look at there. We have third product which is provided by the proprietor. It is motor car. It has been provided by the proprietor again. So what you can do, you can put January 1B entry over here. Another thing I would like to share that we have 4 different products which are provided by the proprietor, and at the same time you can combine all of these 4 elements, all of these 4 products, and can make single entry, and we will see how that combined entry can be made. So now we are focusing upon our third product, that is motor car, which is provided by the proprietor of the business. As usual, motor car is coming in. Motor car is an asset of the business when it would arrive in business premises. Motor car asset, increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you are going to write motor car on debit side. Since you are not buying this motor car, it's been provided by the proprietor of the business. So anything, any product, any element which is provided by the proprietor is called capital. Capital is basically business is responsible for any product which is provided by the proprietor. Proprietor can ask questions, so we are liable to answer. It is liability. Liability should be mentioned on credit side, so you are going to write capital on credit side, and here we are needed to align it on right side. Whatever you will write on credit side, you will align on right side. Whatever you will write on debit side, you will align on the left side. Let's see how much motor car you are receiving from proprietor. This is 24,000. So put 24,000 on debit side, and you are supposed to write same amount 24,000 on credit side as well, as we know that debit and credit would always be equal. As entry is completed, just put an ending line after it so that it can be shown that entry is completed. Still, January 1st entry is not being ended. There is fourth product which is provided by the proprietor, and that is stock. Stock is basically the business commodities, that means merchandises for which you are doing business. If it is trading business, so you are just trading the same product. Stock is provided by the proprietor for 40,000. Still it is January 1. So what you can do, you can make it January 1 C entry. And here fourth product which is coming into the business is your stock. Stock is also a near asset. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you will mention stock on debit side. As an asset, stock is coming in. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you have mentioned stock. But kindly note it down. Same procedure and same process we are following. This stock was provided by the proprietor. When stock is provided by the proprietor of the business, it means still it's capital technically. Capital is liability of the business because in both ways, proprietor can ask about his product which is invested in the business, and business at the same time is answerable for that particular product. So what does that mean? It is liability of the business. When stock had come, liability should be mentioned on credit side. So here it is capital, which is our liability. We will align it on right side. This way you have completed journal entry for stock which is provided by the proprietor. How much of stock is provided by the proprietor? Look at here. It is 40,000. So you will be writing 40,000 on debit side, and same 40,000 you are supposed to write on credit side. Entry has been completed. Just put an ending line to complete it. January 1 entry was having four different amounts: 80, 10, 24 and 40. So 80, 10, 24 and 40 we have written over here. It means uh, January 1st entry has been completed, or four amounts are generalized. What word I'm using? We have generalized all four amounts. Next is January 3rd entry. So very first step is to put your date first. Now let's see what January 3rd is saying to us. You have deposited into the bank. What will be deposited into the bank? Obviously, we are putting cash in the bank account. So cash is going out. Cash in hand Cash in hand is decreasing. When you are putting your cash in your bank account, what is happening? Your cash is going out. Mean cash in hand is decreasing. Cash in hand is asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will see here your cash is decreasing. That means as an asset, cash has been decreased. Decrease in asset, if it is decreasing, it should be mentioned on credit side. So you have written cash on credit side and aligned on right side as well. Where this cash has gone, you can see over here, entry number 3rd, deposited into the bank. It means amount present in bank account has been increased, which means your bank account amount, if it is increasing, bank as an asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you will be writing your bank account over here as amount present in bank account has been increased, means your asset is increasing. How much amount is deposited in your bank account? That is 76,000. So you will be putting 76,000 on debit side, and you are supposed to write same amount on credit side. Entry is completed. To mark it as it has been done, just put an ending line. This way you have completed your January 3rd entry. Now see what is next. It is January 5. Put date first, January 5. And now let's see what January 5 is saying. Here you can see purchase goods on account from Imran. On account means you are not paying cash. It is credit transaction. You have purchased goods. Amount is not being paid to Imran. First step we will complete. If you are buying goods, it means goods are coming in. Goods are your near asset. By buying, your asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you were supposed to write goods over here. But as you know, in accounting, we do not write goods. In place of goods, we write working. What working we are doing? Here we are buying, so you will use the word purchase over here to explain that we are buying goods. Goods were written just for the reference. It is now unnecessary to be written over here. So you may erase it. Goods are bought. Again, come to the point, January 5, you have purchased goods on account. That means you are not paying cash. You have bought and you haven't paid cash, but obviously you are liable to pay this cash in future. It means the person from whom you are buying these products, Imran, is the person to whom amount is still payable. When amounts are payable, it is considered as liability. Liability should be mentioned on credit side. So you are supposed to write Imran on credit side as he is your account payable, and account payables are liabilities, and liabilities should be mentioned on credit side. That is why we have aligned it on right side. So goods are purchased. As you have seen, we have put goods over here, but in place of goods we have written purchase. Imran is the person to whom amount is still payable. Liability is to be credited, so we have credited. January 5, how much worth of goods you have purchased? These are of 18,000 of goods. So put 18,000 on debit side, and now same amount you are supposed to write on credit side as well. Entry is completed as usual. You are going to put an ending line after it. After January 5, what we have? Now go to the question. It is January 6. Here you can see January 6 sold goods to Babar on credit. Here in previous entry, we had bought goods on credit, and now we are selling these goods on credit. Date will be putting first. It is January 6. And what January 6 is saying, we have sold goods. When you are selling good, it means goods are going out. And when goods are going out, what does that mean? Your goods are decreasing. Goods are your near asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you were supposed to write goods over here. But as you know, we do not write goods in accounting. We replace goods with the working. What working we are doing in January 6? Here you can see we are selling goods. So in place of goods, you will write sales. Goods were written just for the reference, and now purpose has been sorted out. It is unnecessary to be written over here. You can erase it. You have sold goods. Goods were going out. That is why you have written sales on credit side. To whom you have sold these goods? You have sold goods to Babar on credit. That means amount is still receivable from Babar. Babar is your account receivable. All account receivables are your assets. Assets should be mentioned on debit side. So you are going to mention Babar on debit side as he is your account receivable. Account receivable being asset are to be written on debit side. So you have mentioned Babar on debit side. Let's see on January 6 how much worth of goods you have sold. That is 12,000. So put 12,000 on debit side, and you are going to put same amount on credit side as well. Entry is completed, and you will be putting an ending line after it. January 6th entry we have completed. After January 6 we have January 8. Put January 8 date, and now let's see what is happening in January 8. Bought office supplies from Rafiq but for cash. Here he is clearly mentioning that amount has been paid. You are buying office supplies. Office supplies, if they are not used yet, after usage they will be considered expense, and since now you are just buying office supplies and not using mean you are accumulating your asset. That means asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you are supposed to write office supplies over here on debit side. How you are buying these office supplies? Please keep your attention over here. You are buying your office supplies for cash. That means cash is going out. Your cash in hand is decreasing. Decrease in cash in hand should be mentioned on credit side. So you will be writing cash on credit side as cash in hand as an asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on debit side. January 8, how much worth of office supplies you are buying? That is 400. So you will be putting 400 over here, and same amount you are going to put on credit side as well. This way entry for January 8 is completed. Put an ending line after it so that we can know entry has been completed. After January 8 we have January 10. So we are going to put January 8 date first. And now let's see on January 8 what is happening. Bought office supplies from Rafi. January 10th date. Typographically I have written January 10, January 8, and I was reading January 8 as well, but actually it was January 10. Alright, January 10 is saying goods sold for cash. You are selling your goods for cash. If you are selling, it means you are receiving cash. Cash is your near asset. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you will mention cash on debit side. As by selling goods, your asset in shape of cash is increasing. It was January 10. Now here you have sold goods. Goods are going out. Goods are your near asset. Asset is decreasing. By if you are selling your goods, goods are decreasing. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you were supposed to write goods over here. But as usual, goods are not to be written in accounting. We will replace goods with the working. And on January 10, what working you are doing? You are selling goods. So you will write down sale over here. Goods were written just for the reference. Purpose is completed. Now they are not needed to be written over here. You may erase it. You have sold goods for cash. That is why you are crediting sales, because goods are decreasing. In place of goods, you have written sales. Okay, how much worth of goods you have sold in entry number 10? That is 4,000. So put 4,000 on debit side, and you are needed to put same 4,000 on credit side as well. This way for January 10 entry has been completed and you are putting an ending line after it. Let's see what next entry is after January 10. Here was your January 10. Now we are doing January 11 now. Let's see what January 11 is saying. Paid 1200 as traveling expenses to salesman. Entry number 11 is saying paid 1200 as traveling expenses. Since it has been openly mentioned that these are expenses, expenses should always be mentioned on debit side. So what you will do, you will write traveling expenses on debit side. When you are paying for traveling expenses, what will happen? Your cash in hand would be decreased. Cash in hand is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to mention cash on credit side. Since we are putting it on credit side, so align it on the right side. Traveling expenses January 11. See how much amount is paid. Here you can see 1200 is being paid. Put 1200 on debit side, and you are supposed to write 1200 on credit side as well. This way you have completed your entry of January 11. Put an ending line after it. Now let's see what is next for us after January 11. We have January 12. So put date first, January 12th. And now see what January 12 is saying. Withdrew from bank for personal use. You have drawn some amount from your bank, but for personal use. Any amount which is used by the proprietor for personal use, technically that amount is called drawings. And drawings are decrease in liability. We will understand it. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So here you have written drawings on debit side. The very first entry which we have completed was the capital. Capital is the amount which is provided by the proprietor. So amount was coming in, it was liability. Drawing means amount is drawn by the proprietor. It means amount is going out or product is going out. So the capital was provided and amount is drawn from that capital. It means capital was considered liability. After going to draw amount from this capital, your liability has been decreased. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So you have written drawings. Technically both words are different, but both amounts are associated with the proprietor. If proprietor is giving amount to the business, it is capital. If amount is drawn by the proprietor out of the business, it is called drawings. So drawing is a sort of decrease in liability which should be mentioned on debit side. That is why you have written drawings on debit side. January 12, what kind of product or amount he is going to draw? Withdraw from bank. He had drawn from business bank account amount. It means amount present in your bank account would be decreased. Bank account is asset of business. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to write your bank account on credit side, and it is now needed to put it on right side. This way you have completed your entry drawings to bank. January 12, how much amount is drawn from the bank? That is 2000 mentioned over here. So you are going to write 2000 on debit side and same amount you are going to put on credit side as well. This way you have completed your entry. Now just put an ending line after it to accomplish it. After January 12th, what next entry we have? It is at next page, January 16. Withdraw from bank for office use. Here in previous entry you have drawn amount from the bank. In current entry, entry number 16, again you are going to draw amount from your bank. Date is January 16, so we are putting January 16 over here. And what we are doing, we are going to draw amount from the bank. That means amount present in your bank account would be decreased. Bank account is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decreasing asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are putting bank on credit side, and since it is credit side, we are aligning it to the right side. Okay, you have drawn amount. Withdraw from bank for what purpose? For office use. Since use is not described, it means you have just drawn the amount from your bank. It means cash is coming in, cash in hand is increasing, cash in hand is asset, mean asset is increasing, increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you will be writing over here your cash. So cash is debited over here as it's an asset and asset is increasing. How much cash you have drawn from the bank? That is 6,000. So you are going to put 6,000 on debit side, and same amount you are putting on credit side as well. This way you have completed your entry number 16, January 16. Put an ending line after it to complete it. After January 16, we have January 19. So put date first, January 19, and what January 19 is saying. See over here, issued a check to Imran in full settlement of his account. For that purpose, you will have to see where Imran is coming in our previous entries. But right now what we are doing, issued a check to Imran. First we will complete this entry. Issued a check to Imran. When you will issue this check to Imran, Imran will go where? Imran will go to your bank account and will present that check to your bank account, with which what will happen? He will withdraw amount from your bank account. Amount present in bank would be decreased. Decrease in bank account mean decrease in asset. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to write your name of bank as amount in bank account has been decreased. So your asset is decreased. Who had presented this check? The person was Imran. Imran was the person to whom amount was payable. He was your account payable, or he was your liability after payment. He is no more your account payable, no more your liability. Liability has been decreased. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So you are going to write Imran over here, though he was your account payable, and account payables are liabilities. Liabilities should be mentioned on credit side. Why we are writing name of Imran on debit side? Because after payment our liability has been accomplished. After payment, Imran is not our account payable now. Our liability decreased. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. That is why we have written Imran on debit side. So this way we have completed half of journal entry, because full settlement is written over here. We have to see how much total amount was payable to Imran. So look where else Imran is present in above entries. You have here, you can see bought goods from Imran 18,000. 18,000 of worth of goods you have bought from Imran. Here you can see this was your entry. 18,000 was total amount which was payable to Imran, total amount. So we were liable to pay 18,000. Full amount would be returned in front of Imran, as we were liable to pay him 18,000. But in entry number 19, what is being said? Issued a check to Imran for 17,600. We are paying him only 17,600. Now you can see it will apply a basic principle of accounting. You can see that amount on debit side should be equal to amount on credit side, but here it is not equal. So who will allow to pay less? As we are paying, we have no authority to pay less or more. Only the person to whom amount is being payable, that person is Imran. Imran is permitting to pay less. It means he is permitting and we are enjoying. It is comfortable situation for us, and the concession has been provided by Imran and we are receiving that concession. In other words, when you will receive concession, it would be considered a discount which is given. So you may write it discount received. As we have little less space, so we are just writing REC for receipt, to discount received, since he had given us a concession. But matter is, when you will see your entry January 19, Here you can see discount is not mentioned and amount is also not mentioned over here. How would we calculate the amount of discount? Here there is a common sense. Total amount was 18,000, which was your liability, and you have paid only 17,600. So difference would be the discount amount. How you would calculate the difference? Total amount was 18,000. You will subtract amount which is actually paid, and that is 17,600. So difference is 400. This is what you have paid, you have received as discount. Entry is completed. Now try to understand in entry number 5. Here is your entry number 5. You can see over here we had bought goods from Imran 18,000. So total amount payable was 18,000. You put over here, instead of 18,000 you have drawn a check of rupees 17,600. It means actually amount present in bank would be decreased by 17,600. Less amount you have paid, it means it is favorable for us, it is income for us, or income should be mentioned on credit side, so you have mentioned discount on credit side. How much discount? We have taken the difference of debit and credit side. 400 is the amount of discount. This way entry is completed. Now you can mark it as it has been done. After January 19, we are now on January 22, and it is saying paid carriage in cash. Here you can see paid carriage in cash, but first we are supposed to put the date January 22. Write down January 22 over here. You are paying for carriage. January 22 is saying paid carriage. When you are paying it, it means it is your expense. Carriage is your expense. Expenses should be mentioned on debit side, so you are going to write carriage on debit side. What you have done, you have paid. It means your cash in hand is decreasing. Cash in hand is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to write cash on credit side, as cash was your asset and asset should be mentioned on credit side. What is happening? To cash you will write over here, because cash is going out, cash is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side, so you have mentioned cash on credit side. How much worth of carriage has been paid? This is 1200, so you are going to write 1200 on debit side, and same amount you will be putting on credit side as well. This means you have completed your entry. Mark it as it has been done by putting an ending line after it. January 22nd entry completed. Now let's see what is next. January 25. Put date first. January 25 over here. Let's see what January 25 is saying. Received a check from Babar. You are receiving a check from Babar. Here, point of understanding is what you have just received. Normally people do understand whenever there is check, then it means bank is directly or indirectly involved. No, as an accountant, you must have in your mind that if check is not deposited into the bank, please pay your attention over here. You have just received check, and listen again. If you haven't deposited your check in your bank account, you will not mention the name of your bank. I'm saying it again. If you haven't deposited your check into your bank account, do not mention your bank until and unless you have deposited. Only at that time of frame you amount present in your bank account would be increased. Otherwise, if you have received check and not deposited into the bank, there is no concern of the bank. So for the time being, just try to understand, we have received a check. Check is sort of asset. Asset is increasing, so you were supposed to write check over here, but in accounting we do not write check as well, as we do not write goods. In the same way, we do not write check over here. Instead of check, for the time being, just consider it as cash. Though it's not your cash, you are just temporarily considering it as cash, while actually you have received the check. But since you haven't deposited that check into your bank accounts, for the time being you are considering it just a check. Check is unnecessary to be written over here. If you don't want to write, just don't write it, since these checks would be written again in our question. Here it might be possible check will come again, so we will have an idea where that check is present. If you will not mention and you will mention only cash, now you can see here cash is present. So how you will decide where is your check and where that check had gone. So for that purpose, we are just writing cash beside it. Here S is extra, we should be deleting it. Okay, you have received a check on 25th January. From whom you have received? Babar. Babar was the person from whom amount was receivable, and you have received check instead of a form. No matter in which shape you are receiving, but account receivable was Babar. After receiving amount from Babar, he is no more your account receivable. Account receivables are asset. After receiving amount, he is no more your asset. Assets are decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention name of Babar on credit side as he was your account receivable. Here your entry is completed in sense of journal. But let's see how much worth of check you have received on January 25. Received a check for rupees 12,000. So put 12,000 on debit side and put same amount on credit side as well. Entry is completed. Just put an ending line after it to accomplish. After 25th January, see what is next. January 31. It is simple 31, and I can look, there are three different entries for the same date. January 31 first entry. This is what? Paid rent for the building by check. Paid rent of the building by check. You are paying rent. It means rent is your expense if you are paying. All expenses should be mentioned on debit side. So you are writing rent on debit side as an expense, and expenses should be mentioned on debit side. If you are paying rent, how you have paid this rent? Again, you are issuing a check to the landowner. When you will give this check to your landowner, he will go to your bank account, will present this check and will withdraw amount present in your bank account, with which amount present in bank account will be decreased. Bank account is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are supposed to write bank on credit side due to the reason, yeah, that amount in your bank is decreasing. Asset is decreasing. That's why you have mentioned it on credit side. Now let's say how much amount of check was. Here you were paying paid rent to the building for 600. So you are supposed to write 600 on debit side and same amount you are putting on credit side. This way you have completed your entry. Just put an ending line after it to show that entry is completed. January 31, and again we have January 31. So what we can say, January 31A, we can write over here as a date, and it is saying commission received. Cash is not mentioned. Indirectly we can understand what kind of medium we will be receiving. So when you have received commission, it means cash receiving. Cash in hand is increasing. Cash in hand is your asset. Asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side. So you will mention cash on debit side. As an asset, it has been increased. So if you have received cash, for which purpose you are receiving this cash, that is commission. If you are receiving cash due to commission, then commission is to be considered as your income. Income should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention commission on credit side. Since it is on credit side, so we will align it on the right side. This way you have completed your journal entry cash to commission. Let's see how much amount you are receiving. It is 400. So you are going to put 400 on debit side, and same amount you are going to put on credit side as well. This way you have completed this entry. Put an ending line after it to show it's a completed entry. After 31A, we have another 31 entry, 31st entry, and that for that we can write 31B. All right. And what last 31st entry is saying, bank charges made by bank. What does that mean? We may have allowed our bank account to deduct amount directly from our bank account. Sometimes it happens. If you have drawn a check, some sort of charges will be deducted by the bank. It would be informed to you through SMS or through email, but it would be included in your contract with the bank that whenever there will be some charges which is pre-decided matter. Bank will deduct that amount from your bank account, with which what will happen? Your amount present in your bank account would be decreased. Decrease in bank account means decrease in asset, which should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to put bank on credit side. Bank account you are putting on credit side because as an asset your bank account is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side, so you have put bank on credit side. Why amount present in your bank account is decreased? Because bank had deducted charges. It means your charges are expenses. Expenses should be mentioned on debit side, so you are going to put bank charges on debit side as an expense. Now look how much amount is deducted by the bank, that is 50. So write down 50 on debit side and you are going to write same amount on credit side as well. This way you have completed your entry 31st B. Put a line after it so that to show that entry has been completed. After 31st there is no entry. It means we have completed our journal entry. So put a main line after this entry to show that question has been completed as of journal. So now look at this, how many journal entries you have made. This is a sort of jungle of journal entries. So step by step we have completed all journal entries. Our first target has been completed. We have completed our journal entries. Now next target is to make ledger. I will suggest we can take break, and this would be considered as part A of question number 2, and we will come back soon and we'll turn these journal entries. So many journal entries we have, we will transfer these journal entries into ledger, and with third step we will convert those ledgers into trial balance. For the time being, let me see off. We will see each other again for the second part of the solution. Up till then, please take care and pray for me as well. Thank you very much for your time. Allah Hafiz.